Hello everyone and welcome back to the Blijdorp Zoo Tour. We are continuing on where we left off in the last episode, and today I am joined by Planet Zoo Twitch streamer DigitalBlob.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining. I think it's really cool to see how many different people reacted to my request of guests here. But yeah, we are getting started right away over here with the African forest buffalo exhibit, which is right across from that fountain where we left off in the last episode. And here we can see the forest buffalo just hiding in the bush a little bit. They got a pretty sizable enclosure with lots of vegetation and many different viewpoints, which we'll get to momentarily. But yeah, welcome DigitalBlob. Is there any reason you wanted to join this series? Do you even know of Blijdorp at all?
No, I'll be honest, my experience of zoos outside of the UK is down to one, and I think it's one that you've been to in Cologne. I think that's it.
That is a beautiful zoo. So here we're getting a bit of a backstage peek. Of course, we do love to see what's going on there. And yeah, now we're going to head to the Riviera Hall, which we've already been to. We're going to take a nice look at this big lake and the bridge of Ravenstein in the back. And normally, if there's no bird flu, you're able to walk right past the water, but they closed that off for the bird flu. Not exactly sure why. I mean, there's not a lot of places where water is this closed off, but yeah, it's you can still kind of get a view of it. But yeah, Cologne is a beautiful zoo. So you do like to go to the zoo in the UK then? Just
yeah, I've got a list that I'm intending to go back to.
But, you should share the list with me. If I ever go to the UK, I need to know what to visit. This is really cool, by the way. Nice little book of all the birds that you can find in this lake, which are all just native species. This is not like an exhibit. It's just a cool lake. There is some turtles in there though, and you can see the lemur island in the back. But yeah,
very nice. I like the wide sight lines.
Yeah, this place is very open. This is really the heart of the classical zoo, with of course the Riviera Hall over here. There's also another viewpoint for the forest buffalo, so kind of right across from where we were earlier. So you can see they do have quite a bit of space here, which is really nice. I also, you can get really close up to the buffalo if they decide to get up to the fence. Once I could almost pet one, which of course I wouldn't do, but it's a big difference with especially the US, from what I've heard, how up close we can get to the animals. But yeah, over there you can see more of the Riviera. This viewing point over here, last time I was at the zoo, it was actually closed off. I'm not sure why. It almost looked like it had been turned into a bit of a staff area. But there was a fun little educational sign over here, and yeah, just more views into that enclosure. So for those watching, this is going to be kind of the last episode of the Blijdorp Zoo Tour, in a way. There is going to be one more bonus episode, which I intended to have come out a while ago, but never got around to. But yeah, this is kind of the last episode of the zoo. After this, we will have visited the entire zoo, basically, so that's pretty exciting. Finally going to move on to some other stuff. And yeah, this is just another entrance point of the Riviera Hall with a beautiful sky in the background. Yeah.
It's a very impressive building, has to be said.
It really is. Yeah, and we're going to go pretty much all around the other side of it, because yeah, we've seen the inside of it in the Riviera Hall episode. We've seen one side of the outside in the Asia area, and now we're going to go past what is the pachyderm area of it, basically. We can see it on the door there. You used to be able to go inside of there to see the inside of the Rhino stall, but nowadays that is closed off. It's only a staff area, the indoor Rhino area. You do get to go into the indoor stalls of the Hippo, the Pygmy Hippo that is, but we'll see that of course later in the video. So here you can see really nicely what the situation used to be and how they changed that for the current situation, the current standards of zoo design. And also on the other side of this is that African buffalo exhibit going even further on. But yeah, here you can see very clearly it used to be a mode, like a U mode, but they dug out the other side of the moat as well to create it in such a way that it's less dangerous for the animals. The animals cannot get too close to the people anymore. And yeah, this is the last view of the buffalo. We can also see the red river hog habitat even behind here. So it's all very compact, and you kind of swerve all around it, getting many different sidelines, but yeah, making the zoo feel very big. It's really quite cool. They could also connect these two habitats. I feel like the red river hog and the buffalo could cohabitate, but I don't know. Maybe they have their reasons for keeping them separate. But yeah, this episode, or this habitat, was also featured in the real-life zoo inspiration for the black rhino, of course, because yeah, this is the black rhino. This is also a gate we saw from the other side of the red river hog habitat, like 2 episodes ago, I think, or 1. But yeah, this is the yard of the black rhinos. They got 3 separate yards, so they can separate them if like babies are born or they can't place any. I think currently Blijdorp is housing a black rhino from, I forgot which zoo, but that zoo couldn't keep them over the winter, so they were moved to Blijdorp so they can kind of stay here for the winter and then move back or something. It came from some German zoo, I'm pretty sure. But this habitat has had many, many uses over the years. It's been a savanna habitat with giraffe and stuff like that. And sadly, it has also once been an elephant habitat, which still wouldn't have been the smallest elephant habitat I've ever seen, sadly.
When you compare this with Cologne's, well, actually no, not Cologne. Sorry, there's one in the UK which is Colchester, and it's absolutely huge in comparison to what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I do always think it's interesting how they managed to retrofit this to work for different species. I also really like the trees and stuff over here. Just some nice little details, keeping it more lush and such. Of course, we also got tons of shelters, and here we are getting closer up to the actual building inside. And this is such an iconic look. I think the lady made this in her city zoo, and she did a really good job. Also the protection around the tree to protect that against the rhino. It's just such a lovely habitat. I really enjoy it a lot.
How many is in here, do you know?
How many rhino? I think at the moment there were like 3 of them, so like 2 parents and maybe a different one. I feel like the babies have moved out at this point. But yeah, they can use the 3 yards to separate them if need be. And then over here we got the Pygmy hippo habitat, which is super interesting looking also.
This is very cool.
This is very cool indeed. So I was told that sadly this did used to be a regular hippo habitat, which isn't great, but the hippo could actually escape from it as well. It could like stand on the edge of it. So that's why it was already at an early point decided that this should be a Pygmy hippo habitat instead, which is a lot better. they fit in there quite well. But now we are moving past the pachyderms, and we are going into probably one of the last looks we'll have of this, because this is subject to change in the master plan of the zoo. So this is the gorilla trail, and that right over there was a pretty old holding of the gorillas. I think it is still used. I think the gorillas can still access it, but it's not their entire habitat. That's what we're going to see later. But there's a lot of history to this particular gorilla habitat. I'm not sure how familiar people outside of the Netherlands are with this, but have you ever heard of Boquito?
No.
Alright, so Boquito sadly passed away this year, but he was the male gorilla of Blijdorp. And a few years ago, or well, yeah, more than a few, like 10 or 15 years ago, Boquito actually jumped over the moat of his habitat and attacked a woman who was constantly making eye contact with him.
Now that you say this, it does ring a bell. She was visiting quite a lot, wasn't she as well?
She was a frequent visitor, always making eye contact. So at some point, Boquito had enough, and he jumped the moat.
This rings a bell now.
Yeah. So because of that, the habitat was completely changed. So you can see it is completely walled off. It's kind of more of a, it's not quite a pit, but it is no longer a moat, that's for sure, to eradicate any possibility of them jumping over or climbing out. So yeah, stuff like that completely changed the way, because modded gorilla enclosures still exist, but I don't think Blijdorp will ever do them again, basically, just to avoid that. Over here we can also see the Okapi aviary from the outside, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the gorilla habitat is a mixed exhibit with the gorilla as well as the white-crested mangabey, which we also saw in a different part of the zoo. I think it's really cool. You see it very frequently that gorillas are mixed with smaller monkeys, because gorillas are in general quite chill, so they cohabitate just fine. So here, inside of this more classic Blijdorp building, it does have a bunch of African theming and education about the gorillas. We can also see a backstage holding for those white-capped or white-crested mangabeys. But this is a more on-the-ground viewing area, so here you're not looking down into the kind of pit. Here you're more, level with the gorillas, and this is also where they do their feeding presentations and stuff like that. So, yeah, it is a really lovely habitat. It's really big. It's really quite good, I think. I really wonder what the idea is in terms of like needing to change this, because the master plan does have new plans for the gorillas, and I'm really curious to see what they are and how they're gonna improve on this, which is already pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah, this side looks quite nice, but that first bit that you was looking at, like, I was going to say to you, it did look quite old and decrepit.
Yeah, and we will see a bit more of that. And also, I have heard people complain about the indoor areas in general as well, because it is a lot of concrete and stuff like that. But I don't know, it never bothered me that much, because it is, it's their indoor yards. Like, it needs to be easy to maintain and clean for the zookeepers as well. But yeah, we'll see how, as time goes on, that evolves. But over here we're going to take a quick look at the Uyana Lodge, or Uwanya Lodge. This is the big kind of food area of the Africa area of the zoo. So you're taking a quick peek at the inside of the restaurant for people who want some restaurant inspiration for their Planet Zoo stuff. I know you, for one, have made some really cool restaurants, I've seen.
Yeah, when they first did them, I wasn't too keen on them, and then I think all you need to do is like one restaurant, and then you sort of like get a bit hooked on them. Like looking at this, I could see some possibilities here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super cool. They also have some like quick service spots as well. You can order your food via QR code outside and then just pick it up. Over here you can see the outside of that building, really nicely themed. So what's interesting is that this is kind of outside of the monumental area of the zoo. So you can immediately see that there's a lot more theming and interesting stuff, because they don't have to tie themselves to those listed buildings, basically. Which is why also people are thinking that perhaps this is where they're going to make some major changes, because here they're not tied to the struggles that come with having monumental status in your zoo. I did want to show a bit of the playground, but the only footage I have of it was during the winter, so we got a bit of a season switch over here. But yeah, you can see this is an absolutely humongous playground. I think this is the only playground in the world that I actually have like nostalgia towards. It's like I can so vividly remember playing in that as a kid. It's super cool. And yeah, over here the gorilla trail continues, and we get another one of those elevated viewpoints over here. This area is just super lush and beautiful.
I love this.
Yeah.
I'm not like such a big fan of the concrete paved type of thing. This is like my jam for sure.
Yeah, it really feels like you're taking a step into the Congo, which is really cool, because you're still in that city zoo kind of area, but it feels completely different here, which is just super, super neat. Yeah, that just continues right on until we get to a really fun little sign over here about emotions and the kind of faces a gorilla will make. So you got a little mirror so you can imitate them. Of course, one for adult level as well as one for child level. And then over here we got one more of those kind of very old classic cages, basically. So yeah, this is still used as like a backstage holding, I'm pretty sure. I have seen the white crested mangabeys in here, as you can see over here. But yeah, this is not the primary holding anymore, luckily. So That is for the better.
Yeah.
And yeah, we are slowly meeting back up with some points that we've already visited. I think we have seen this little hut in another episode, but let's just quickly take a look inside over there. So this is a bunch of posters about the projects that the Friends of Blijdorp have supported. So the Friends of Blijdorp, as I've said in a couple of episodes already, they collect money to donate to the zoo so that they have more money to do all the cool projects that they do. And here it kind of talks about them. And then this joins back up with the rock garden and the gelada enclosure in the old Predator building. But we're gonna take a quick peek on the other side. So here's some backstage access to that classical like cage dome thing that we saw, and this leads to the indoor area of the gorillas as well, and that's gonna be the last thing we're gonna check out today. So let's head inside past the Riviera Hall and into the indoor gorilla area. So do you tend to also focus on like making your backstages and stuff, or
No.
are you more of a implied person?
Yeah, that's definitely an area of my game that I do need to improve upon and look at some point. I think it goes in stages, isn't it? Like you always have these focus points where you think I want to improve upon this, and then you just put all your time into that, and then you move on to the next thing.
I mean, I can understand where people draw the line. Is like, yeah, no, I'll just imply that there is a backstage, but they can also be really fun to make, especially in cases like this where there is so much cool detail over here. Because this is where the architecture of Ravestein really shines through, and there's so many unique things to this. I mean, just look at this. It's a really cool building. So this didn't used to just be the gorilla house. Of course, this used to be a primate house, so it had like a variety of primates in it. But luckily that's no longer being done, so all of these rooms are just for the gorillas. And they've got little latches in between them, so they can open and close them. So they can like close off 1 or 2 rooms so that the keepers can go in there and clean. And they can separate gorillas from each other if one is like ill, or if there's something wrong in the social dynamics of the groups. But yeah, you can see the roofs have a super interesting shape. Here you can see that especially. There's lots of climbing opportunities for them. The concrete kind of ledges on the back to give them some elevation. And then over here, this is Boquito from when he was still alive. He was such an impressive gorilla. It was super, super cool. So another thing that's really cool is over here we can see a kind of scale. And we have Boquito once again. So this platform that he's standing on is actually a scale, and it in real time shows how much whatever is sitting on their weighs. So if you're lucky, you'll be able to see the gorilla on there. And we could just see that Boquito was weighing like 250 kilograms. This is just crazy. All muscle. And then over here, all over the place, you've got a bunch of education. This one, personally, I'm not a huge fan of. It's like a quiz, which of these foods are good for gorillas, or it even says like, what do our gorillas eat? So if you don't flip those images, then someone might take the wrong message home. It's like, oh, the gorillas eat ice cream, but no, if you flip it, it actually says that they don't. But if people are lazy and don't interact with it, they might take the wrong message home. So I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of it for that reason, but maybe it's the people's problem. And over here, you can see all the names of the gorillas in the family, and there's a bunch of other stuff. This is pretty cool. Just randomly, over here is an enclosure for the Rufus elephant shrew. We can see one over there. It's pretty cool. It's just kind of hidden in the wall here. Don't expect it. I think a lot of people will miss this as well if they don't pay attention.
Yeah, it's quite a small hole. If it was say like a viewing dome turned on its side that someone created, then you'd probably be more inclined to see it. Yeah,
I think it's because they are also in a different part of the zoo. So I think they have like one on exhibit, and this one is more like to give them a lot more privacy. I guess they're pretty shy animals. Here we can also see the kitchen. Just took a quick peek in there when the keeper wasn't there because I didn't feel like recording him. It was actually really funny. She was singing along with the soundtrack to Tarzan, which you could hear through the wall, which made my day pretty much. But yeah. that was it for the gorillas. And then over here we have, as I mentioned earlier, the backstage of the Pygmy Hippo. So they got a pretty large stall in here with also a big water pool. And here as well, like you can get super up close to them, which is really, really interesting. I feel like this is not something you'd be able to do in the US, but it's really awesome. And yeah, this kind of concludes that room. So beyond this room, there would be the Rhino stall through these doors, but they have been closed for as long as I can remember. And then here's a bunch of education on hippos and Pygmy hippos and their differences and all of that kind of fun stuff. But that pretty much concludes this episode and concludes the Blijdorp Zoo Tour. So, DigitalBlob, I want to thank you for joining me.
No, thank you for having me. I'm definitely taking some things away from this, for sure.
That's awesome. And yeah, we're finishing off over here with the Pygmy Hippo. And I want to thank everyone for watching and for watching along this entire series. It's been a lot of fun. This was definitely a big zoo to tackle, probably one of the biggest until we eventually do Paradise, probably. The next zoo that I want to be doing a zoo tour of is going to be Burger Zoo. I'm really excited for that one. But before we get started on that, I do want to make a couple of like one-off episodes on like smaller zoos. Probably like 3 or 4 of those. I want to do one zoo tour update for Zoo Park Overloon. And after that is all done, we will get started on Burger Zoo. So hope you look forward to that, and I will see you then. We are leaving this adorable little hippo over here. And I want to thank you for watching one more time, and see you later. Bye bye!